The BMW Compact Cup is brought to you by Nankang Tyres and Gas Shocks.
Welcome to the bankings of Rockingham for the penultimate round of the Nankang Tyres BMW Compact Cup. The season so far has been all about James Gornall and his battle with Stephen Daly. Last time out at Silverstone, Daly had some impressive drives while misfortune beset Gornall, and the gap was really closed up at the top of the championship table. It's over to race commentator Andy McEwan for a roundup of last month's action.
The pair of races on Silverstone's national circuit saw the continuation of the Daly-Gornall rivalry, with the two drivers inseparable once more. Behind them, Ian Jones and Ben Huntley were equally close together, while at the front, this late lunge from Gornall nearly ended in disaster. Daly was able to hang on to the race victory, but was then immediately on the back foot after a poor start in race 2, which was compounded by this contact with Huntley later on in the lap. The Scotsman mounted an impressive fight back to second, but it all allowed Gornall to pull away for another comfortable win, his 6th of the season so far. This means that 16 points separate the pair arriving at Rockingham, but 2 good results here for Gornall could put him on the brink of the title. Owen Hunter leads the chase in pack, but is under a lot of pressure from James Nutbrown and Matt Parks.
So while the main championship battle has been the talking point throughout the season, there are some drivers further down the top 10 who have been closing the gap to the front. Here are a few of them.
Tim Scott-Andrews was one of several drivers to achieve career best results at Silverstone, recovering from a non-finish in race 1 to get his first top 10 in race 2. Tom Griffiths, meanwhile, is no stranger to the top 10, but 6th place last time out was the closest to the front that he's reached so far.
I had a really good race at Silverstone, best result of the year so far, 6th place. It's been a good first year. Obviously the car's been built very well, and I've got to thank my dad for giving such a good car to drive in. It was my very first season of racing in anything, so it's been a good championship to start in. I think we'll do another year. I'd like to progress a little bit further with it and hopefully a little bit closer to the front end of the grid.
Alan Caulfield also achieved his first top 10 finish at Silverstone and was involved in some terrific scraps along the way.
Silverstone was a bit of a milestone, got into the top 10 twice, so I was really pleased with that. The championship's amazing, it's such good fun and the guys are great, and yeah, being in the middle is a busy place to be, but it's great fun, really enjoying it. There's probably a lot more time in me than there is in the car, but I'm getting there, you know. I'm getting on in years a bit as well. It's taken me a while to get up to speed. Last time I raced here was 2001, and I had a 16-year break from racing, so feeling a bit rusty, but getting there.
So it's Gornall on pole once more, with Ben Huntley alongside him for company on the front row here at Rockingham. Carrington Yates and Jones row 2, with Steve Daly mired back on the 3rd row of the grid. Jack Yates is back and qualified 8th quickest for the first race here at Rockingham, whilst Charles Plumley, former MX5 racer, lines up on row 7 alongside Tom Langford. David Sharp is a non-starter after mechanical dramas towards the end of qualifying, whilst further back James Stanbury, Brendan Murphy, Martin Gadsby and Simon Welch will all be looking to try and move forwards. So here we go then. James Gornall on pole position. There are 4 races left in the 2017 championship, and his big rival Steve Daly 16 points behind him in the championship, and he's only 5th on the grid. So this could be about to play beautifully into the hands of the reigning champion. There he is, the man himself, looking calm and relaxed as the red lights go on and out. We're away and racing. It's a good start from Gornall. A terrific start though from Stephen Daly. Look at that, from the inside of row 3. He's already level second as they head down towards turn number 1. Ian Jones also gets a good start from the outside of row 2. He will challenge as they go through the first corner, but look, Daly already actually has ideas of challenging for the race lead. I don't think he's going to get it yet. Gornall leads the way down to the Dean Hairpin. Now it can often kick off down here. They're 3 and 4 abreast further back. Mark Skeets with a bit of a lock-up, but it will be single file for the top 3. Gornall, Daly and Jones. Huntley comes through in 4th. 5th place is side by side between Mark Skeets and Owen Hunter. On board here with Keith Towers as we make our way out of Dean and down towards the first of these right-handers at Yentwood. Leaders come through single file. Further back, there's a big lock-up there for Alan Caulfield, and bang into the side of Tom Griffiths. Oh, and Rory Clark got a piece of that as well. Just a glancing blow as they went through. David May just avoids doing the same thing, but that could be quite a lot of damage to Tom Griffiths' car. This is Phil Adcock. That's Nicola Gillett in front of us, who's gained some ground out of all of that going on through the first corner. but Phil Adcock also survives and continues on his way. Now there's Rory Clark. You can see the damage to the left-hand side of the car, big ding in the door. There's no passenger side window. The driver's side wing mirror has been knocked loose as well, so it's been a bruising start to the race for Rory. He's still picking up places. Tom Griffiths, though, is not. He is out of the race with damage to more than one corner of that car, I fear. Leaders down at Tarzan, and there's Owen Hunter diving up the inside of Ben Huntley. That will be for 4th place, and that was a textbook Tarzan move, that wasn't it? Just launched at the apex, got the car stopped, and even if you run a bit wide on the exit, the next corner is a left-hander, so Hunter should be able to defend this one. You can see Huntley trying to fight back as they turn in, but can't quite do it. Leaders through, and look at Daly applying the pressure here to James Gornall, who just made a bit of a mistake then, ran a bit deep into the Brook chicane. That will compromise his exit speed out onto the banking and across the start-finish line, and the next time you hit the brakes, he's not at turn 1, it's down at the Dean Hairpin, which is quite a long way away, so if you get a good run out of the Brook chicane, it really benefits you all the way through the flat-out turn 1 here at the banking, and you could maybe set yourself up for a move down at the Dean Hairpin. I'm not sure Daly is quite close enough. Let's see, he might have a go. No, Gornall just moves over to the middle ground there to try and deter Daly from going up the inside. The Scotsman has to settle into second for the time being. Back out they go, down towards Yentwood, this very tricky 90-degree right-hander. So easy to outbrake yourself and run a bit wide there, but they both clip the apex curve nicely. There's Jones 3rd, Hunter 4th, sorry, and Huntley 5th, with Sam Carrington-Yates right behind them in 6th. This was the start from Daly. 0 wheel spin, perfect traction. He had a terrible start, remember, last time out at Silverstone in race 2. This one couldn't have been much better. Ian Jones appears briefly to our right-hand side, but Steve Daly brilliant from 5th to 2nd. That's James Stanbury, who doesn't quite make the corner down at Dean. We're on board with Phil Adcock. He was right in the thick of things coming through here. Oh, that's David May recovering from a gyration, and Phil Adcock, amongst others, doing a good job to avoid him. That explains how Nicola Gillett got past him. And this is on board with Wayne Flint. Look in front of us, that's Alan Caulfield. Crunch straight into the rear right corner of Tom Griffiths, and nice stuff there from Wayne Flint to slot through the middle of them. So here are a few of the drivers recovering from early incidents. You've got James Stanbury there, the red and black car, Alan Caulfield, white and purple. Chris Hack started from the pit lane, had some sort of mechanical issue, and it was a mad dash to try and drive all the way from the outer paddock here at Rockingham, round the outside of the track, through the tunnel, back into the paddock, into the assembly area, and started the race from the pit lane. He's just got past Alan Caulfield, and I'd imagine his heart rate hasn't really had time to relax before the start of the race, and it certainly ain't relaxing now, is it? Because he's embroiled in a terrific battle here, well down the order, but these are all drivers who know they should be a bit further up the field, but have had some issues early on, so they're trying to fight back and also race each other. James Stanbury, that was alongside him as they came out of the chicane. Speaking of side-by-side, this is for 3rd place, and this is Owen Hunter going through ahead of Ian Jones, who got away with the leading 2 early on. Smoke actually from the back of Ian Jones' car then as he comes out of the Dean Hairpin, but Hunter goes through. He's into a podium place. Has he got the pace to go after the leading 2? We'll have to wait and see. It's perhaps doubtful, certainly on what we've seen previously in this season. There's no catching Steve Daly or James Gornall. Owen Hunter might have to spend the rest of his race staring at the rear view mirror and trying to keep Ian Jones from fighting back. You've got Sam Carrington-Yates and Ben Huntley not far behind either, so they've swapped over. Carrington-Yates now ahead of Huntley. Down into Kirby, this double apex left-hander. We're on the longest of the many different layouts here, the International Super Sports Car Long Circuit here at Rockingham, which includes this run through Kirby. This is on board with Keith Towers attacking Matt Parks in front of us as we come out of Kirby, up the hill now towards Graceland. It's very easy to mess this corner up. It goes over the crest of a hill. It's very quick as well. The car wants to float out wide over to the edge of the circuit, but that will end in tears. Oh, Carrington-Yates there with a very late lunge up the inside of Ian Jones, who does seem to be fading slightly in the middle portion of the race. You can see that Owen Hunter, has got away from him. Oh dear, that's a bit of contact there. That was Matt Parks diving up the inside of Tom Langford. Sorry, not of Tom Langford, excuse me. Tom Langford has a grandstand view of all this. Keith Towers buying into it as well. Keith Towers, lots of gesticulation, lots of finger pointing. It was Jack Yates who was being assaulted down at the Tarzan hairpin, but the driver with the novice cross on the back of his car does at least manage to fend off Keith Towers. They both live to fight another day, but now Towers goes back up the inside, coming out of the corner. Again, Langford is sort of stuck wondering how he can become a part of this. He doesn't want to just sit there watching. He wants to get past them if at all possible, and he knows that whilst they're running side by side, this could be his best opportunity. He's getting a nice double slipstream here down into turn 1. Tom Langford on the right of the screen, Keith Towers on the left. Fascinating stuff this, isn't it? You can really see how intense the battling is, sort of from the middle of the top 10 back. Still they're side by side, Keith Towers and Jack Yates, and Yates is very late on the brakes, but he locks up, he runs a bit wide. Towers with the tighter line, gets to the apex first. They're still almost side by side, but finally Towers will prevail. Oh, big moment there for Jim Barrett as he dived up the inside of Simon Welch. They both run out wide. David May, recovering from his first lap spin, is also a part of this battle, and he might just split them as they head in towards Yentwood. Now this is Gordon McMillan, and he has closed in on Jack Yates now. Oh, and gets very sideways, very, very sideways, and does very well to hang on to it. Gave Wayne Flint a bit of a scare there, I think, and Wayne just gives him a bit of a punt up the back to speed them both up, and they continue on their way. Now then, this all looks rather interesting, doesn't it? This is the fight for fourth place, and you can see Ian Jones has fallen down another 2 places now. Both Sam Carrington-Yates and Ben Huntley have gone through. Jones trying to fight back though as they go down into Yentwood. It's the wrong side of the road here, but he could execute a switchback manoeuvre and get up the inside for Chapman curve, which is exactly what he's doing. He's got his nose in the door. Can he force his way back through? Don't think he did. Jack Yates, meanwhile, still at play as they head down in towards the left-hander. Dean Hairpin. Oh no, Keith Towers off in front of them. Jack Yates goes off. He was sort of ushered out wide there by Tom Langford. I think that both Langford and Yates were following the braking marker of Keith Towers then. Keith outbraked himself, and so did they. On the final lap though, James Gornall has managed to pull a decent gap over Stephen Daly, and this could prove to be a pivotal race victory. Gornall will come through the final turn. He will see the checkered flag for the 7th time this year, and he has one hand now on the championship trophy. Steve Daly doing all he can to try and stop him, finishing in 2nd place, whilst Owen Hunter, after a fighting drive, will get himself back on the podium once more. That will be his 6th appearance on the podium. Still looking for his first win of the season, but that will be his 3rd 2nd place finish. A solid season it's been for Owen Hunter, particularly through the second half. Oh, and more late drama. Oh dear, that's quite a big impact there for Gordon McMillan, and that looked as though it was Wayne Flint, wasn't he, that he collected? Yes, it was Wayne Flint. So Wayne had rotated at the chicane, and unfortunately McMillan had nowhere to go. Wayne Flint pulls into the pit lane and will be classified as a non-finisher. James Gornall won't though. He takes the race victory, the fastest lap to boot as well. Steve Daly is in 2nd, Owen Hunter 3rd, Carrington-Yates took 4th late on ahead of Ben Huntley and Ian Jones. Mark Skeets was a lonely 7th with Matt Parks, Keith Towers and Rory Clark rounding out the top 10. Jack Yates survived all of his scraps for an 11th place finish, whilst Charles Plumley's debut was 12th in the end. Further back, as I said, we lost a few. Gordon McMillan and Wayne Flint we saw at the last corner. David May retired late on as well after his spin early in the race. Tom Griffiths, David Ashforth and David Sharp was a non-starter.
I made a bit of a mistake in 3rd corner as well, so he kept with me, but then I was just able to get a bit of a gap. It was quite tricky, still slippery in places, but once I got ahead of steam I was able just to keep putting the lap times in and pull the gap that I needed.
Managed to get the good start, but just ran out of legs. We just didn't quite have the pace we needed to get James. Made up for Owen. He started on the same row as me and he's up in the 3rd, so that's quite good as well. But just thanks to KC Motorsport supporting me again, putting me up the sharp end of the field. Can't ask for better.
It's always tricky getting past Ian. He never makes it easy for you, but it's always a fair race. I just had to show my nose up the inside, and luckily it just sort of pressured him into the move. But yeah, it was made up with 3rd. I'm starting on the front row for race 2, and I'll just see what I can do. I just want to say a massive thank you to Phil and Steve at XDR Motors for their work on the engine and all the troubles we had at Silverstone. Without them, this weekend wouldn't have happened at all.
So Stephen Daly will be determined to take some points out of James Gornall in race 2. Join us after the break to see if he can. Hello and welcome back to Rockingham, where race 2 of the weekend for the BMW Compact Cup is about to get underway, and it could prove to be a pivotal one too. A good result here for James Gornall could see him put one hand on the championship trophy. He'll be trying to do that from pole position, whilst his big rival Steve Daly is looking for another good start from 3rd on the grid this time around. Further back, keep an eye on Chris Hack, who this time gets to start on the grid, not the pit lane. He'll be on the outside of row 6. So here we go then. In 15 minutes time we may well have a fairly clear idea of the outcome of the championship. There'll be plenty of good racing further back though. Keith Towers was in the thick of it in race 1, but this is James Gornall, who knows that a 4th place finish in this race all but mathematically gives him the championship title. Away we go then, and Steve Daly does make another good start though from the 2nd row of the grid, and he'll be alongside James Gornall down towards the 1st corner. He's on the outside line. Can he get his that car down to the inside? Yes, he can. He knew how important that was to get the lead away from Gornall, but even if he wins it, he needs to hope that Gornall runs into a few issues here. Down towards the hairpin they go. The top two already starting to escape. Look, Daly from Gornall. Hunter is third, getting a bit of assistance down into the Dean hairpin there from Ian Jones, who's fourth. Mark Skeets is fifth. Tom Griffiths running wide. There's David May also in the thick of the action coming through the left-hander, but they are all through a bit more cleanly this time than they were in race one. On board with Gornall, and Daly runs out wide again, but he's over the grass and Gornall's up the inside in an instant. This is for the race lead, but it could potentially be for so much more. Gornall goes back through. Daly has to fight back as soon as he can, tries to draw level down into the pith path, but it's the wrong side of the road, and Stephen Daly, above all else, cannot afford to go off the road here. He has to stay in behind James Gornall and try and find another way through. So Gornall's got the lead back, Daly in second, Hunter there in third, Jones with two wheels on the dirt, so too Sam Carrington-Yates, who's in sixth, and Keith Towers, you can see here, he's in behind Tom Langford. Quick adjustment of the wing mirror, maybe turn those windscreen wipers off as well there we go. Keith Towers in his exuberance, and as he bounced over the grass, flicking all sorts of things in the cockpit that he doesn't want to be flicking. He's back over the grass again now as they come out of Bracelands, but these are the leading trio, and Owen Hunter, at least in the early stages here, very much going after the top two. You sense really that all season long Owen Hunter has been the nearly man of the BMW Compact Cup. He's oh so nearly been able to take the fight to these two on several occasions, but just never quite been able to stay with them over a race distance. Let's see what happens this time around. Through the Brook chicane we come for the first time. Daly already, you sense, starting to defend more than attack, isn't he? There's Rory Clark as he turns his way through at the end of the lap, and that behind him Charles Plumley, who is the co-founder of the Blendini Motorsport squad, who have had many successes in Mazda MX-5 racing alongside their star driver Tom Roach, of course. Charles, a former Mazda racer himself, now trying his hand at the Compact Cup and enjoying it thoroughly by the looks of it. Leaders come through at the end of the opening lap already, an 8/10 of a second lead. Look for James Gornall, Steve Daly second, Hunter third, Ian Jones in fourth, and Owen Hunter with a much tighter line into the Dean hairpin than Steve Daly, which is oh so inviting, isn't it? But then on the exit you can see how the wide line in, tight line out approach for Daly does benefit him in the long run. Now these two are back at it again, Tom Langford and Keith Towers, who we saw were embroiled in some royal battles in race one, and you can see there Tom Langford diving up the inside of Tom Griffiths, and Keith Towers says thank you very much, I'll follow you through. So 2 places lost there for Griffiths, but at least he survived the first lap this time around. Remember, that was the corner where he got punted off at the start of race number 1. So Keith Towers and Langford now charge up behind Gordon McMillan in a repaired car after his late shunt with Wayne Flint. Tom Griffiths trying to fight back there up the inside into Kirby, but no way through. David May is the next car in line behind as well, with a new livery on the front of his car for this weekend. Oh, Keith Towers spending more time on the grass than the tarmac at the start of this race. That was another grassy moment coming out of Kirby, and it may lose him a place, look, because Tom Griffiths has drawn alongside now. That's the outside line, though, down in towards Tarzan. There's Matt Parks just ahead of Sam Carrington-Yates, who's fallen back a bit here at the start of race number 2. Well, he started 9th actually, so no, he's just not running quite as well as he was in the first race, when of course he was briefly challenging for a podium position. He could still work his way through though, as we mentioned in race 1. Plenty of overtaking opportunities here at Rockingham. It's a nice wide circuit as well. The slipstream through the banking means that you can close in on your competitors and maybe attack down into the Dean hairpin. That's what Matt Parks is going to try and do here. In fact, he may not need the slipstream. He's already alongside Mark Skeets as they come across the start-finish line. Skeets is just about timed as being in front at the line, but you can see that Parks on the inside is now drawing ahead through the banking, and he should as well be able to defend the inside line down towards Dean should he need to. So Mark Skeets will try and come back at him. He's looking to the inside. He'd have to be very late on the brakes to make this move stick. He might just try it though, let's see. Well, it will help him that Matt Parks seems to have outbraked himself, but just about gets across to the second apex and takes the place. So through will go Matt Parks, and now Sam Carrington-Yates tries to find a way through. His brother Jack, of course, back in the championship this weekend as well. Here's Phil Adcock doing battle a bit further down the order. Another driver who, like most of the midfield runners, has seen his fair share of action this weekend. We heard Alan Caulfield saying pre-race, didn't we, that the battling in the midfield is often more intense in some ways than it is right at the front of the pack. And you're seeing examples of that up and down the order in this one as well. Back through Chapman curve goes Phil Adcock down at the Brook chicane. The Skeets Carrington-Yates battle still continues, and Mark Skeets is just about doing enough here to fend off the AWE livery car, but there's a gap up the inside. There's also a big curb on the inside there though, that Sam Carrington-Yates discovers, and as hitting it lost him a bit of traction. It means that Skeets will hang on, and actually Tom Langford buys back into it now, gets in the slipstream across the start finish line. Down to the inside of the track goes Carrington-Yates, Langford to the outside now. It's a brave man who tries to go around the outside at turn one, but that's exactly what Langford is doing, and he's going to be very close to the wall on the exit of the corner, very close indeed, and he's late on the brakes into the corner. That was a fantastic move, that, from Tom Langford, and he makes it stick as well, doesn't outbrake himself into the hairpin. Really, really ballsy driving there, and a good move made around the outside at turn one. At the inside at turn two is Keith Towers, and that's a place gain for him as well, as he continues to pick them off one by one, working his way steadily through the order. The lean, mean racing car is making good ground. Oh, and there's Charles Plumley, who has got a bit of damage to the front of the car by the looks of it, and he's off down at the Dean hairpin, possibly into retirement. Here's Alan Caulfield, another driver who had a bit of repair work to do to the front of his car after race one. Not quite as much, though, as the driver in front of him, Gordon McMillan, who was involved in that shunt with Wayne Flint on the last lap. McMillan we are on board with now as we turn our way through Gracelands. We've just lost that place to Keith Towers, but staying with him more or less as they come through the left-hander. Sun starting to glare through the windscreen. Alan Caulfield now applying the pressure to McMillan. Remember, these two came together at Silverstone, didn't they, as Caulfield made it 3 abreast through the final corner and they traded paint. Not a significant bit of contact, but enough to damage wing mirrors and certainly focus the attention. They're back together again here at Rockingham. Down into Brook chicane they go. It's fascinating, isn't it, how over the course of a season certain drivers just keep finding themselves together on track and they develop some really nice rivalries. Oh dear, a bit too close together on track by the looks of it. That's Phil Adcock and the 23 of David Ashforth, who started together on the 14th row of the grid. Well, this is what happened. Phil Adcock up the inside, James Stanbury locking up in front of us. Well, Adcock goes straight on, so maybe it wasn't involved directly with David Ashforth. Ashforth just with his own problems on the inside. No problems at all, though, for James Gornall. 4th place was probably enough to more or less certify him as the champion for 2017. He will cross the line a race winner for the 8th time in 2017. It's a double race victory here at Rockingham for James Gornall, and there's no one else in sight. Steve Daly will be second. He's happy with that, I'm sure, but he knows that his title aspirations are all but gone now. It's a double podium as well for Owen Hunter. Mark Skeets fitting him one last little bit of drama at the last corner, running straight across the gravel. He'll rejoin with Dirty Tyres, but not losing a place to Sam Carrington-Yates. They will cross the line with Carrington-Yates now back ahead of Tom Langford as well by the looks of it, although Tom nearly got him back on the line. Then it's Towers and Griffiths. They will also be side by side across the start-finish line with Keith Towers just in front. So Gornall wins, Daly is second, Hunter is third from Jones and Parks, the top 5. Mark Skeets, Sam Carrington-Yates, Tom Langford, Keith Towers and Tom Griffiths round out the top 10. Outside the top 10, James Nuckbrown was up into 11th place, just ahead of Gordon McMillan and Rory Clark, who repaired damage after race 1. Whilst further back, we lost, unfortunately, Charles Plumley, we saw pulling off into retirement down at the hairpin. Also David May, Ben Huntley and David Sharp was a non-starter.
It's been very good. I think I got fastest lap as well, so it did make it the perfect weekend. So it's very, very pleasing. We've spent a lot of time working hard to make sure the car's right. Dad and Dave doing a wonderful job.
We got a really good start actually. Straight up in the first. Well, again, warmed my back tyres up at the start. Didn't have enough heat in the fronts and went off. And one of the right-handers, which allowed James to take the lead, which is really not what I wanted considering the amount of pace he's got here. Not a great day for us, but it's, you know, second's great. I mean, I'm happy to be up here, but we really needed the wins.
I just wanted to get off the line well, firstly, and just see if I could challenge those two, but they're just in a world of their own this season. They have been all year, and I'm fairly happy to be best of the rest at the moment. Going
ahead to Brands Hatch, do you think there's any chance of challenging them there?
There is if I take them off at the first corner and go and take all the glory, but I'm not about that. So I'll try my best, as I always do, but I mean, it's their year, really. I'm just happy to make up the numbers in third.
So 24 points now separate James Gornall and Steve Daly, which, pending exclusions and penalties at Brands Hatch, should be enough for James Gornall to take his 2nd title in succession.
So a clean sweep for Jiggy this weekend. Is there anything Stephen Daly can do to prevent him from taking the championship? Join us next time as we head to the final rounds at Brands Hatch.